Welcome back to EarthX 2026. I'm Paul Salfen, and today we are so honored to be with Steve Nygren. Welcome. You came all the way from Atlanta, but honestly, not quite Atlanta, your own community.
Our own community, right in part of Atlanta, but just 25 minutes from that airport. So that's an easy almost commute to Dallas.
Yeah, this is so fascinating. I mean, we talk to people who do all kinds of interesting things all around the world, and but you've done something that I think a lot of people can picture in their mind that they can actually do. I can't figure out how to save the oceans. I can't figure out how to, there's certain climate things that, I need a little bit more education on. But this I understand, and this is something I want to know how in the world this all got started.
Well, you start seeing the world through different eyes when you see it through your own children.
Yes.
And when our children were small, I realized that we needed to connect them with nature. Mm-hmm. And so on an afternoon Saturday drive with no intention to buy anything, we visited a historic farm that was for sale. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. We visited a historic farm that was for sale, mm-hmm. and they had the Shetland pony saddled, and we bought the farm without having any idea why. I thought, well, this open land this close to the city makes economic sense, and besides, my three darling daughters are delighted.
They want a pony.
And so I'll go ahead and do it. And I thought we'd visit it a couple Saturday afternoons a month. We rented the historic house out. My wife fixed the shack in the back in case we ever wanted to spend the night. And to my surprise, it's where the whole family wanted to spend every weekend. We had a great house in the city with all the trappings that money could buy, the pools, the Barbie rooms, the whole thing. And they wanted to go to the country. Mm-hmm. And so doing that every weekend for 3 years was a value shift. And so we sold the big house and moved full-time to the farm, restored the historic house. And then 6-7 years later, the threat of urban sprawl started creeping in. This greater area, that's this southern tip of Fulton County, was the last really available land that had not been developed, that was still all agriculture. There had been no roads to it, no services, bad schools. So all the development had gone north, east, west, but not this southwestern corridor. But it was headed our way. I started buying more land, which is that first thing, protection. I'm going to go do this. But I couldn't keep doing that. Yeah. And so I started talking to my neighbors. And over the next 2 years, we connected with 500 landowners that started from kitchen table coffees on to coffee groups, and then into a public meeting process. And in 2002, we passed one of the largest land use changes in Metro Atlanta, with 80% of the landowners supporting the project, and the 20% that didn't support us didn't oppose us either. They just stayed home. And so it shows you, when you have a conversation with diverse groups, we were able to talk about how each, both the pro-development could have more housing and higher values, and the preservationists could save more land than they would ever expect. So we are one of the unique places in the United States where 70% of the land will be saved through zoning, not environmental efforts to have to purchase it.
That's amazing. A lot of people, it seems like these days don't know their neighbors, don't talk to their neighbors, and kind of build up higher walls against their neighbors. But as you come to find out, if you actually talk to them and go in on something good, you can accomplish a lot.
That's right. This idea where we've moved further out from our center cities, larger lots, more toys. We value engineered the sidewalks out of our communities because nobody walks from one place to another. And we become a auto-oriented society. And loneliness and depression are on a critical increase, and we're not asking why. And I think enough studies after the pandemic came to see that loneliness is one of the key things. And some of the antidotes is connection with one another and connection with nature. And yet we've been developing places that remove us from both. Wow.
Yeah. So why do you suppose more cities have not adopted this kind of thing? Because it'd be wonderful.
There's, we have steadily what I call the unintended consequences. Into zoning, into what we think we want. Everyone thinks they want bigger yards, bigger X, bigger Y. And we're just in this treadmill without asking the hard questions. Is what is the consequences of some of these issues? And so that's what our example of Serenbe now is an example. I mean, this is no different than communities from 100 years ago, and some of the communities we're charmed with in Europe and come back. Why aren't we bringing that back to our own soil for our own people? And so that's what we're doing.
So would you say this is scalable, or is it mostly for affluent communities?
This is absolutely scalable. We're helping people all over the country, literally all over the globe. I just got back from Turkey. The largest developer there brought us in to understand that. I'm headed to Australia later this year for a 4-city tour with the Urban Land Institute. We're working in at least 20 states, from small infills in Madison, Wisconsin, to a family generational horse farm edging up to Kentucky, in Lexington, Kentucky, Hyde Park, New York. I mean, we are literally doing this. So they may all look different, but what we talk about is the basic principles of building in relationship to nature. We call it biophilic design. Because that's biophilic is actually the relationship of all living systems. And how do you connect that? And we've been separated, and it hasn't worked out too well.
So is there some good ROI for living closer to nature, or?
Well, absolutely. The studies are showing it, whether it's health and walkable, in depression, it's a lot. I don't know if you're familiar with Richard Louve's book, Last Child in the Woods. But he actually put the research together, and I was delighted to see that, because it finally gave voice to what I intuitively saw. But they're showing that really part of the child's brain, the tutelary ground, is not developing correctly, because we're not in those places that you just have to figure it out, which is what happens in nature. I love one example of a bunch of kids, out in the woods crossing a stream, with just rocks and not very deep, and all the older kids have hit the rocks and they've gone on, and you see about a 3-year-old standing there, and you can see he's figuring out if he can hit those rocks and get on the other side. And a few of our kids today are in situations like that, and if they are, their parents are picking them up and putting them on the other side. And so we don't have these natural places where people are just learning how to manage, and our common sense it isn't being developed as it should. So it's literally a part of the brain's not developing because of our lack of relationship with nature.
Well, speaking of good books, I see you've got one with you right now.
I wanted to make sure that you had this. This is
great.
Start in your backyard, which is literally what I did. Rather than waiting for a government or a big corporation to come fix us, we met with our neighbors and started figuring out together how we could save our backyard. And as the tagline says, it's retrofitting where we live with radical common sense. Because there's nothing unusual or scientific. How do we used to live? What's the common sense things of eating fresh food, knowing the farmer growing it, supporting the arts,
It's amazing.
knowing your family doctor, having your teachers live in your community, walking to school. These aren't hard principles.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know that a lot of people, when they hear about this stuff, they'll be looking at you going, man, I want to do what you do. And I know me, I want to grow up to be like you. So what kind of advice do you give to people that want to follow in your footsteps and make a change in this world?
Whatever bothers you, do something about it. And for some that's literally right, maybe the school board, maybe your HOA, maybe organizing your neighbors to get rid of lawns and put in edible landscaping. For a few, it's running for public office. It's all sorts of things. We did the book and have set it up with a lot of QR codes.
Oh, good.
So this can be used sort of as a manual, whether it's for an HOA or a book club, a garden club. I'm going home and talking to a garden club that's been reading this. And so it's kind of a manual on what can you do rather than waiting for somebody else to fix what bothers you. Do it yourself.
That's great. I have a great feeling that you have a a completely fascinating life full of many, many chapters in it. So my co-host on a show, Drew Pearson, is one of our great Dallas Cowboys, and he caught the Hail Mary. And we talk about those Hail Mary moments in your life, the moment in your life or career, you just kind of have to go for it. And I'm so curious to know what that going for it moment was for you, where you just kind of like, all right, I'm going to make this happen. Is it this or something else maybe?
Well, the awareness. I mean, I was settled into retired life.
Yes.
You know, I'd been very lucky to sell a company successfully enough that we could take the family to Europe for a month, and I was not missing
Yes.
the treadmill that I called it. You know, I was busy, but it wasn't. It was things I wanted to do and projects, and you know, and it was my hands in the dirt, our own garden, our farming, our own animals, traveling when we wanted to. And then on a morning jog with my daughter, we came up upon a hill. Excuse me. And then one morning on a jog, we came up on the hill on a trail that was along our property line, and the bulldozer was bulldozing the forest next to us, which we didn't know.
Wow.
I ran out and I stopped the guy and I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I've just been hired to clear the house or the trees. I guess houses are coming here." Oh my God. And I ran back to call the retired doctor who lived a couple counties over, and I couldn't get him. Started calling other landowners to see if they knew what was going on. No one did. I always ended the conversation, well, if you ever decide to sell, let me know. And within 3 weeks, I had another 600 acres under contract. And so the retired doctor returned, and I found out he had sold it to someone to put in a pasture airstrip. So the immediate threat was gone, but in that investigation, I found that other developers either had a contract or were looking at land in that general area. And so I said, oh my goodness, this was my wake-up call.
Yeah.
And then I didn't really, that wasn't immediately saying I'm going to be a developer. It was, you know, what are the solutions? A good friend was Ray Anderson, who had Interface Carpet, and in the 90s became the first U.S. industrialist to put his company on a carbon-neutral footprint.
Wow.
And he was chair of the White House Council on the Environment in the 90s when it was first established. So one night at dinner I said, hey, Ray, you know all the smart people, all the connections. Who can come in and counsel with me and be my mentor as to how, you know, what we should do, you know, my consultant. And so Ray asked the Rocky Mountain Institute. And so in September of 2000, the Rocky Mountain Institute brought 23 thought leaders for a 2-day conference. Georgia Tech documented. These were some of the big names in the environmental movement back then, 25 years ago. And it was kind of depressing because I saw how serious the issues were, but there was no one applying this. Who was that mentor I'd asked for? And so Ray wisely sent me here and there, and about 6 months later I said, Ray, there's got to be somebody doing this. And he said, no, that's why you have to. And so that was my second piece of that aha. First the bulldozer, and then second, oh my God, I'm going to have to develop our own land, because at that point I had been pushed through the threshold of passion. And logic was not going to stop me as I looked at it. And, you know, there's no way it made sense to attempt to do what we have done. And now 20 years later, it's kind of still surprising that it's actually incredible. 1,400 people living there. Wow. Some babies who were born there are now in college. We have people who moved there in early retirement are now aging into their 90s. Wow. I mean, pretty cool.
That's wonderful. So how does one join this community?
Come down.
Yeah.
But buy a house, rent a house. You can, you know, we have the Inn at Serenbe, so you can come, you can literally come for dinner at one of our 5-6 restaurants. You can come for a weekend at the Country Inn or bring a conference down during the week, and then buy a house and come for a lifetime.
I'm coming.
Okay, it's deal.
That's wonderful. Well, EarthX is full of wonderful minds and great change makers here. Who are you looking forward to connect here?
Oh man, I have been so impressed with some of the people.
Yes.
Of course, Trammell Crow himself is one of the characters of our
great.
time,
He is.
and all the people that he connects with, pretty cool. I mean, it's hard to count a special. I mean, the lunch speaker today was just blowing my mind. I'm still taking all that
amazing,
in.
isn't it?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Well, how do people connect with you? How do they find you? Not only here, but outside of here in the community.
Well, of course, the book is on Amazon or any of the local bookstores. And then serenbe.com, that's
Yes.
SERENBE.com, you can go there. And then if you are a developer or a community that wants to figure out how to do this differently, we have Nygren Placemaking.
Great.
And that is a conference we do every fall for anyone who's curious or active in development. And then we select about 3 communities a year that we'll actually do a deep dive work with in Salfen.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, please continue to do what you're doing. It's an absolute honor to talk to you and love hearing about this great community. We're going to have to go check it out ourselves. So thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thanks for EarthX for exposing these stories and sharing that there are solutions locally.
Absolutely. Well, stay tuned because we've got more for you next on the EarthX TV podcast stage.